Hi, everybody. My name is Dustin with www.gamblingonfreedom.com. I specialize in helping people with problem gambling, gambling addiction, compulsive gambling. And if you guys are or know someone who is a problem gambler and wants to quit and get their life back, comment, follow, like, share, visit the website, book a free consultation, whatever you need to do. This channel is designed to sort of help you change perspectives and perceptions, to help you understand gambling addiction and recovery different than you've probably read or heard or saw or watched videos on before. So this is maybe a little bit different take on it. This is how I work with my clients and how I get results for my clients. So today's video is going to be different, maybe. We're going to talk a little bit about how gambling hijacks your brain. Okay. So the first thing I want to throw out there for you is variable rates of change. Okay. And I've talked about this on my channel before, but I think we're going to go a little bit deeper into it on this one. So what is a variable rate of change? So when we're young, our brain is a pattern matching machine, period. Our brain is a pattern matching machine. It sees a pattern, it wants to stick to that pattern. When we're young and we're starting to be involved in games such as like at recess, whether that's basketball or kickball or softball or whatever, right? We start to kind of get involved with games at recess and things like that, video games at home, things like that. Well, what happens when we play these games is our brain recognizes what's called a fixed variable rate of change, a fixed variable rate of change. So what does that mean? That means that when you play basketball, for example, you might lose a couple games, uh, but then you'll win, right? You might lose a couple kickball games, and then you'll win. You might win a couple, and then you'll lose. You might win a couple, and then you'll lose, right? So a fixed variable rate of change, the brain is matching this idea to games in general, just games in general, because most games have a fixed variable rate of change. You're not going to forever lose playing basketball or kickball or softball. You are going to win at least sometime. So the fixed variable rate of change mindset is essentially I've lost two, I'm going to win the next one. Or I've lost four, there's absolutely zero chance I'm losing the fifth one. Right? That would be a fixed variable rate of change because to the brain, it already understands like there's no way that this pattern could be forever. I can't just lose forever and never win. So there's a point of okay, I lose a couple, three, four, I'm gonna win. There's no way I don't. Right? That's sort of the fixed variable rate of change mindset, and we all have it. Anybody who was very used to playing games when they were kids, whether that's again basketball, football, kickball, softball, whatever, if there was a winner in the games, what you would have found is that you might lose a few and then you'll win. You might lose a few and then you'll win. Same with video games, right? Maybe the kid doesn't like sports, they're just a video game person. That was like me, right? I was a video game guy. So I did play sports, but I was at that age, I was definitely more into video games. And so even with video games, it's the same thing because you might play a level and then lose, play a level and then lose, play a level and then lose. And then eventually you play the level and you win. So even with video games, you start to realize that I can't just lose forever. There's no possible way I could just lose forever. It doesn't happen. And usually after maybe the third or fourth or fifth loss, I'm gonna win. Like there's no way it's gonna go to 10 or 20, right? So that is a fixed variable rate of change. But what happens is, and our brain recognizes it because we've done it for so long, right? We were sort of grown up with a fixed variable rate of change in our brain. But when we get to a casino, it is no longer a fixed variable rate of change. Think about any of the casino games that has, especially if it has an actual algorithm like a slot machine does. In that case, it's a perfect example of what I'm trying to say. That is a randomized variable rate of change. So what I mean by that is your brain understands a fixed variable rate of change. If I lose two or three or four, I'm going to win one. But with a Slot machine, it is random. It is an algorithm. There is no variable, there's no fixed variable rate of change. Your brain just thinks there is. This is how it's hijacking your brain. It's hijacking this part of you that's already conditioned to understand a fixed variable rate of change. But with an algorithm doing it, it's completely random. You might win 7 in a row and then lose 3. You might lose 3 and then win 10. You might lose 50 and then win 1. You might lose 60 and then win 2. It's completely randomized. There is no fixed variable rate of change. So what happens is, I've lost 3, 4, 5 slot machine pull down things, and I've lost 4, 5, 6, but my brain wants to keep chasing the loss because I've already learned way back in the day how games are played. Eventually, I'm going to win. And it's random. So you do win, but there is nothing fixed. There's no pattern at all, no pattern. So if you're gambling in the way of using skill, that's a little bit different, right? If you're doing blackjack, if you're doing poker, right? Those are skill-based things. You can learn really good strategy of how to play poker, of how to play blackjack, of how to do it right. And because there's skill there, now it's not entirely randomized. There is more of a fixed variable rate of change. It doesn't mean you won't be addicted to it. It doesn't mean you can't get addicted to the gambling. It just means that the randomized variable rate of change issue isn't really the problem in that case, in that scenario. If you're one of the online bettors and slotters and things like that, now you're running into the randomized variable rate of change issue. Your brain is conditioned for fixed variable rates of change, not random. So the more you think that you might win one because you've lost 2 or lost 5 or lost 10, there's no way you can lose another one. If that's your mindset, it's because of this variable rate of change. It's because there's a randomized variable rate of change due to an algorithm. There's nothing fixed about it. It's going to do whatever it's going to do because it's a machine versus, a game that takes skill like basketball or soccer or baseball or football or kickball. Their skill. You don't have a variable rate, you don't have a randomized, you have a fixed variable rate of change on things that take skill. If it's machine based, random, completely random. If it doesn't have to be machine based, it could be like roulette, for example. Roulette, yes, there's strategy around roulette, but if you don't know any of that strategy and you're just letting the thing go and the ball land where it needs to land, and you're doing it based off that, and you're doing it because you think and feel and believe that you're gonna hit the money. Okay, you're going up against a random variable rate of change, not a fixed one. So that is that. The second thing I want to bring into your attention here is understanding hypnosis just a little bit more. I don't really like to talk about hypnosis on the channel too much just because it's not really that relevant or important sometimes. But in this video, it actually is. So, what is hypnosis? A lot of people don't know what hypnosis is, right? Um, well, it's not some six-dimensional state. It's not magic. Okay, it's not some magical place. All right, that's not what it is. Okay, all hypnosis really is a state of open attention. Okay, openness and attention. Think about it. What is hypnosis? Well, hypersuggestibility would be one answer. What is that? Well, that really just means you're very receptive to things. Okay, so if you're very receptive, you're very suggestible. What is receptivity? Receptivity is openness. So if you're open to something, you're receptive to it. If you're receptive to it, you're suggestible. So the first ingredient is openness, and the second ingredient is attention or focus. Now, depending on the school of thought you want to dive into, to me, you can even just leave out the openness, and it's really just attention. Hypnosis is attention. The more attention you have on anything, the more hypnotized by that thing you're going to be, whether it's external or internal. You could have all of your attention on internal emotions and thoughts. You're hypnotizing yourself to think and feel that way. If your attention is external and it's on slots and casino and lights and fun and excitement and money, and attention is out there, then all of that stuff is hypnotism. Okay. So the more attention you have on anything, the more in hypnosis you go. And the more in hypnosis you are, the more the subconscious mind is influenced. Okay. Now, the subconscious mind only cares about two things, literally two things. That's it. What is known, what is unknown. Okay. The subconscious mind loves what's known. It wants the familiar. It doesn't care how you feel about the thing that you're familiar with, whether it's good or bad. It doesn't matter. It's still known. So it doesn't discriminate whether you feel good or you feel bad about something. That is your known. This is why you might have somebody who's been in relationships that are, toxic. So toxic relationship after toxic relationship after toxic relationship after toxic relationship is because the known is that they have toxic relationships. That's their known. They might have learned that from childhood. They might not have. Maybe it was just from the first relationship. I don't believe in the model that everything is childhood trauma and childhood this and childhood that. I think that it can be that, but there's just been countless hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sessions that I've had where that's not the case. And the root, if you will, was 6 months prior to the problem, right? Or whatever. So it's not necessarily a childhood thing, but what you have to understand is that as we put our attention on something, the more attention we have on it, the more message units come in through our senses about that thing. Okay, so you're bringing in information through your senses all the time. You can't stop what you're hearing. You can't stop what you're reading and seeing and feeling and tasting and smelling. You can't turn off your senses. Or maybe you can close your eyes and stop reading or stop seeing, but you're still hearing it, right? Unless it's a book, in which case you do stop that a little bit. But the point is, you're bringing in information constantly, and you cannot turn it off to a large degree. So when you're in a casino and you're creating knowns by going into slots and then winning, or going into slots and then losing and losing and losing and then winning, or going into slots and then making a jackpot, or going into poker and winning some hands, or whatever. And all of these things that you're doing are surrounded by different thoughts and beliefs and identities and feelings. And so these become known in the subconscious mind. Gambling is fun. Maybe that's a known. Gambling made me have $10,000 in less than an hour, which is more than I could make in 6 months. That becomes a known. Gambling is fun, and it relieves my stress. Right? How we talk about moving away from pain and the pain versus the pleasure. We move away from the pain and go towards the pleasure in that case, right? So the relief, right? The gambling is relief, and that becomes a known. So you have all these different knowns that gets created the more attention you have underneath it. So the more attention you have on something, the more you absorb information through that thing, through your senses, and the more that influences your subconscious mind. Now, think of why that's important. Well, the subconscious mind loves the known. Why? Well, because it doesn't want to have to keep relearning things that it already knows. Imagine if you had to keep relearning how to speak, or how to drive, or how to write, or how to um, dance, or how to swim, or how to do martial arts, or whatever it is that you can do second nature, right? That's just second nature, like the back of your hand. Anything like that is subconscious in nature, right? That's what it is. It's second nature because it's subconscious to you. So what happens is, you put all of this attention on something and you're bringing in that information through your senses. And eventually, over time, through repetition, that becomes the known. And you want it to be a known because you don't want to just try to have to keep learning how to read in order to read, right? We would get nothing done. Our subconscious mind wants everything the same. It loves the familiar. It loves the comfort. That's what it wants. And so the more you bring into your senses that gambling is fun, gambling is exciting, gambling is good, gambling is awesome, and the more knowns you create around gambling in that way, the more you know that that's the relief, that's the escape, that's the control, that's the way. The unknown is rejected. The unknown is rejected. So what happens is, at first you go into a casino and it's kind of an unknown. Maybe you don't have that many knowns yet about the casino. And maybe you go in and the first thing you recognize is the things you were thinking about before you got there, the things that were stressing you out, you're not even thinking about. So maybe you become mindful of that. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to keep focusing my attention on relief, on control, on fun, on money, on excitement, on joy. And I keep my attention here. And what happens? My dopamine receptors get activated and I start to feel pleasure and reward and happiness. And it attaches to gambling because now I'm having an association. I feel this way when I gamble, which means that whenever I gamble, I feel this way, right? And then you stop gambling, and that's where the shame and guilt stuff builds up if you've lost or whatever. Now, imagine somebody who they go to gamble for the first time and they lose all their money. There's no pleasure there at all. They go in, they don't even want to go, they don't really like it. They're there, they're dragged there by their friends to tell them that they need to get out of their house or something, and they really don't want to. They're not there for any good reasons. They don't really care about it. They're just going through the motions. They go there, and then they lose. That person is probably not going to continue to do that. Maybe they lose, and then maybe they lose, and maybe they lose a lot of money. If they lost a lot of money in that time, and they didn't want to be there, and they weren't really excited about going in the first place, they're going to have a lot harder time creating knowns in a positive way, right? The knowns that they create are gambling sucks. I really don't like gambling. Gambling makes me lose all my money. I'd rather be home. Right? Those are the knowns. And so the knowns don't discriminate. Whether they're good or bad, it makes no difference. It's still known. Okay? So that's the first thing. So understand your subconscious mind only cares about the known and the unknown. And the way to create knowns is through attention. That's what you're doing. So the more you go to the casino and the more you put your attention on the lights and the money and the sounds and the fun and the excitement and the people and you start creating all these really positive knowns about gambling, the more you do that, the longer you do that, the more addicted you're going to be. That's what it is. The more addicted you're going to be. And now, whenever you try to get out of it, what happens? Well, now you're trying to stop gambling, but gambling is the known. And now you're trying to tell yourself unknown things like gambling sucks. I hate gambling. I'm never going to do it again. This is not good for me. I don't like it. Right. And we try to tell ourselves and use that willpower and use that decision making to be like, no, I don't want this anymore. I don't like it anymore. It's not good. And you keep telling yourself these things, but the known is that it's awesome. The known is that it's great. The known is that it's relief. The known is that it's control. The known is that all my problems leave. The known is that I could make more money. The known is that, I can make more money doing this than, weeks at my job. Whatever. You have all these positive knowns going against the unknown. And if it's unknown, the brain will reject it. Unknowns, the subconscious mind hates. So it protects itself from the unknowns at all costs. It does not want to change. Your subconscious mind wants to stay the same. It wants everything known. It does not care how you feel about that. All it cares about is what's known. All right. So, how does gambling hijack your brain? Well, it hijacks your brain in the sense of variable rates of change because we are conditioned from a long, long time ago to play games in a certain way and to lose and win X amount of times and to understand a sort of thing that because my skill is here, that I have the ability to sort of change my outcome. I might lose three, but I'm going to win the next one because I'm going to put more devotion into it, right? But at a slot machine or at a roulette table, if you have no strategy, or any other game in gambling, if you have no strategy, but especially if it's a mechanical game like slots or something, it's all random. There is no fixed variable rate of change. It's a randomized variable rate of change, and you have a lot less control in that way. And so it'll hijack your conditioned already understanding of how games are played. Your knowns around how games are played are being hijacked because it's random, not fixed. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is the knowns and the unknowns. You are creating knowns through your attention. You are hypnotizing yourself to be a gambling addict. That is what you're doing. This is why, if you've ever seen a hypnotist, we talk about dehypnotizing people. We're actually helping you dehypnotize yourself versus hypnotize you. We're hypnotizing you to dehypnotize you, if that makes sense. You're already hypnotized by your problem. That's why you have it. That's why you have it. You've put so much attention on it, so much focus on it, that it has become familiar. It's become the known. That's what it is. It's known to you. And all of these knowns around gambling that you have, right? If your knowns are primarily good things, they relieve stress, they give you control, they feel good, you win money, that feels good. Friends go with you, it's not just you, and you have a whole posse with you, and you guys have a good time. It's your way to escape, it's your way to lose steam. All these things, those are all creating more and more and more and more positive knowns, or just knowns that gambling is good, essentially. Right? Gambling is a good thing. So what happens when you try to tell yourself that you're going to stop? Your subconscious mind is like, heck no, that's not what we're doing. This keeps us. This is the no. This is we're still alive. Like, right? You have to understand what's familiar is the subconscious mind's basically number one priority, and depends on the school of thought you want to think about this. But the unconscious mind, we have conscious, subconscious, unconscious. We talk about them in three different ways. Some people include the subconscious and the unconscious together, and they just talk about the conscious and the unconscious. There's just different ways to think about it. I like to separate it just so you understand how each one has its own sort of function, if you will, but it's not entirely accurate. So the unconscious mind will say, in this case, its number one priority is survival. And so what happens? Well, what happens is you have this subconscious known, this familiar idea of what gambling is and what it does and how it feels, and it's kept you alive. You're still alive. And this is the known. So any unknown coming in, I have to reject. I have to analyze. I have to critique and decide if it's even allowed to influence my subconscious knowns, because that unknown thing could mean death. That unknown thing, it doesn't have enough information yet around it for me to accept it as a new known. So because all I really care about from my nervous system level is survival, and all I really care about the subconscious level is the known. And what I know kept me alive up until now. So I'm not going to change. I don't want to change. Not really. Subconsciously, we don't. Logically, we want to change, but we feel like we can't. That's the dissonant energy. That's why your nervous system gets involved. Okay. So, all of that being said, we hypnotize ourselves to have the problems we have. Your attention and focus on gambling, this attention and belief, this attention and focus on this belief that gambling is good, that I can stop anytime I want to, that it gives me relief, that I get a lot of money, and all these things are known now because you've done it for 6 months, a year, 3 years, and you've created all these knowns. And so now what happens when you try to put in new information saying, hey, I got to stop. I can't do this anymore. This is not good. I'm losing everything. My family hates me. My wife left me. I lost my car. I lost my job. I lost my living, everything. But it doesn't matter. Why does it not matter? Because it doesn't matter how you feel. Your subconscious mind's number one priority is what's the known, and your unconscious mind's number one priority is how is survival. So if what I know has kept me alive, then it must be good. That's all I care about, is survival. I don't care about how I feel. I care about if I'm alive at the unconscious level, at the nervous system level. And so even though all these bad things are making you feel bad now, and you're gambling and you're frustrated and you're losing and you've lost everything, doesn't matter. Gambling is still the known. The known is still that gambling is fantastic, and it has all these other positives to it. And that's the known, and that's what's been keeping us alive. We know we're still here, so we're still alive, which means whatever we're doing, whatever's known, it has to be right. That's sort of the mindset that the subconscious and the unconscious kind of have. It's the conscious mind that's like, no, no, we got to move. This cast got to change. We got to logically assess ourselves, get out of this situation, because logically we know that it's not the right situation to be in. But subconsciously, it doesn't matter. It's the known. It's how we learned. It's what we learned. And until we can replace the knowns, until, like, if you think about it, you have all these knowns about gambling here, and this is where you're sort of stuck at. This is why when you try to quit, you kind of come back to gambling, because all of your knowns are here. So what you want to do is sprinkle in new knowns, start bringing in the unknown, making the unknown known, right? Start having more and more unknowns become known, and then eventually just, and now the new normal is whatever you programmed yourself to have more knowns of. And then this is the sort of, one of a time, every once in a while you might go back into it, and it's not the default anymore. The default is the new knowns that you've programmed yourself to have. This is why, like, hypnotists talk about reprogramming and programming the subconscious. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. We're putting in new ways of thinking, new ways of feeling, new ways of doing things, right? So we'll just take it for example. What happens if you have all these positive knowns? Like, when I go gamble, I get relief and I get, happy and I get excited and all these things. What happens when all of those positive knowns become neutral, become less tempting, become less good? What happens when we neutralize the emotional charge to where it's not good and it just feels like meh, like kind of mundane or just not important enough anymore? And your mindset, when you think about gambling now, goes from, I really want to gamble because I need relief, or I really like to gamble because I want to be with my friends, or I really want to gamble because I need to make more money. What happens when your mindset shifts from that to, is gambling really that important? Does it really do what I want it to do? Does it feel good? I might just lose my money. You see the mindset shift here? So that's what this work does. What the work does is it helps a person go from, oh, this is exactly what I want, to, do I really? I don't know, but I don't know if I really want that anymore. It doesn't feel good anymore. It's kind of neutralized. In fact, when I think about not gambling, I actually feel good. That actually becomes the relief now. Right? So now the not gambling, after some repetition and over time, I'd rather be home. I'd rather be with my dog. I'd rather be with my family. I'd rather do anything else but this, because this isn't important anymore. So the knowns have shifted. And so, we can neutralize negative emotions. We can neutralize positive emotions. We can increase negative emotions, and we can increase positive emotions. That is essentially what hypnotherapy does. It helps you change your knowns so that you think and feel differently, so that you can take different actions, you can get different results. That is essentially what hypnotherapy does. And so for you, though, at home, like, how can you start to apply this? How can you start to use hypnosis for your advantage? Well, what you can do is you can start putting your attention on other things. Think about this. The next time you start to have craving thoughts, and if you don't know what I mean by that, all I mean by that is you start to have positive thoughts about going to gamble. That's all a craving thought is. Cravings are just positive thoughts about the thing that you want to do. So whenever you start to have positive thoughts about gambling, whether that's because you have a lot of shame and guilt and pain that you're running away from, and so your mindset is now craving thoughts, let's go gamble because I need to get away from this, like we talk about on this channel. If that's the case, doesn't really matter. You're starting to have craving thoughts. You're starting to have positive thoughts about going to gamble. That is the thing that you start to want to go to. So what you have to do is you have to make a pattern interrupt. You know logically that you do not want to go. And yet you go because you feel like you need to. So what do you need to do? You need to put your attention and focus on something else. That's what you have to do. In that moment, you have to pattern interrupt yourself. You know you're craving it. You know you're wanting it. All you can think about is going and gambling. Okay, that is the time where you have to put your attention on something else. You have to focus your attention on something else. Create a new known. Every single time I think that it's a good idea to go gamble, I'm going to go work out instead. Every time I think of even wanting to go gamble, I hang out with my family instead. Whatever the case may be, you want to pattern interrupt, because that is the thing that is making you go gamble. It is those craving thoughts. It's this justification of your reasons why gambling is good, and you have to break that. So I can help you do that, and it'll be much faster probably, but you can do it yourself. Okay, like I said, this channel is designed hopefully to help you guys break out of your own gambling addiction without needing me or someone else. That is my hope. So I want to give you guys as much information as I can to really help you understand what's actually going on in your mind. Okay, you're having these craving thoughts. That is the time before the action of going and gambling. You need to break. You need to break it. How do you do that? You put your attention on something else. You are hypnotizing yourself to go gamble. Why? Because all of your attention is on the thoughts that you think about going to gamble, and it's creating positive emotions. And then it becomes a chicken and an egg. I feel this, and that's why I think this, and that's why I think that, and that feels this, and this, da, 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 da. And it becomes a chicken and egg. It becomes a tornado of whatever. It happens the same way with, rumination and anxiety, by the way, right? Think about it. It's the same thing. Well, if I'm ruminating on what if this bad thing could happen, what if that could happen, what if this could happen, what if that could happen, what if this happens, what if that happens, I'm going to get anxious. I'm going to get afraid. I'm going to get worried. And those feelings are going to exasperate my thinking of what if this and what if that and what if this and what if that. It's the same process, just in reverse, because gambling is relief and control and escape. So it feels good. So instead of it feeling bad and us neutralizing the negative, we have to neutralize the positive, right? It's the same thing. It's just opposite. So for you, if you're ever, that your goal is to quit gambling, you have a problem, you're ready to get out of it, that, why you want to, and you have this list of reasons why, which is actually a really good idea. Write out a list of reasons why. 7, 10, 15, 20 reasons why gambling is no longer for you. Why gambling is not something you want anymore. Keep that list with you, so that whenever you have this craving thought to go gamble, whatever justifications, whatever reasons you might think you have for going to gamble, right? All of those things, all of them are coming from your subconscious. Those thoughts, those craving thoughts are coming from your subconscious. It's the known. I hope this is making sense, guys. It's the known. Your known is that gambling is relief, gambling is escape, gambling is control, gambling is good, gambling is fun, gambling is happy, gambling is exciting, blah, 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 blah. So what happens when you're in a moment of stress? Let's bring positivity. Let's go escape. Let's run away from the feelings. I don't want to feel this way. I want to feel this way. And so this is the known. And so when you're in those craving thoughts, and when you start to have them, and when you start to recognize them, that is when you consciously have to put your attention on something else until all of those feelings go away. Don't even stop. Okay, don't stop until all of the attention that you used to have on these craving thoughts go away. And you know how I know you can do it? Because any person who's ever quit smoking or quit drinking has had to do the same thing. Any person who's ever quit any drug or any substance for any reason whatsoever, if they were able to succeed, they learned how to stop listening to that voice, that craving voice, that subconscious voice, the subconscious known of this is what we should do. Any person with an addiction who has quit the addiction, which is a lot of people in the world, by the way, has had to go through this. They have had to stop listening to that voice in their head telling them it's a good idea. And you can do that different ways. You can just shut it up and just say, shut up, I'm not listening to you. Or you can literally put your focus on anything else because you're hypnotizing yourself to go gamble in this moment. Your attention is all on these positive thoughts about gambling. Eventually, you're going to go. That was how you hypnotize yourself to go gamble. And then that creates more notes that this really is a good thing to do. Right. So I hope this makes sense, guys. The variable rate of change thing is just kind of an idea of concept to understand. Like if you're playing slots or online betting or anything that has to do with a machine in any way, it's random and you'll never, ever have a fixed variable rate of change in randomized variable rate of change settings. Okay. This is not going to happen. So if you have a mindset of, I need to, I've lost three and I'll definitely win one. Like if you're sports betting online or something and you do it and, you lose three or four or five and you have this mindset of, I just need one more. I'm going to chase that loss. I'm going to do it, one or two more times, then I'll quit. If you have that mindset going on, you're falling into the trap of randomized variable rate of change. It's hijacking your conditioned understanding of how games are played. And that's why you do that. Second thing, knowns versus unknowns. If you're a gambling addict, that is your known. You know you're a gambling addict. That's your known, right? And all of the reasons why you became that are already known to you. And anytime you try to bring in unknown information saying, oh, I don't like gambling. I don't want gambling. I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't good for me. Every time you try to bring that in, it goes up against your knowns. And the more it goes against your knowns, the more rejection there is. You already know that gambling is what you do. It's good for you. It's relieving. It feels good. It makes you money. It's exciting. It's fun. You already know that. Because you do, anything of the contrary, anything that's unknown, which isn't that, everything that's not that is unknown. Anytime you try to bring that in, it's not coming in. This is the known. It hates the unknown. Your subconscious will completely reject it. So what do? In those moments that you are having craving thoughts, having this thought to go gamble because it's good for X, Y, and Z reasons. Anytime you start to really think about it and feel like it's a good idea, that is the time you need a pattern interrupt, and you need to do it consistently. It's not just once. It's literally like if you're doing this on your own without specialized help from somebody like me, if you're doing this on your own, it's going to take time. You're going to have to pattern interrupt those thoughts and focus on something else a lot because you've been doing the opposite of that for years, probably. If you've been gambling for 20 years, you've got 20 years worth of knowns of why you should gamble. So every time you try to stop, you have 20 years worth of knowns telling you, nope, we should continue. This is why. This is the reason. You might feel better. You feel this way now, but you won't when you go gamble. You might win a jackpot. What if everything turns around for you? Okay, all these knowns coming up, producing thoughts, you're having positive thoughts, and now you might go. But if you can just consciously understand, this is the moment when you have these thoughts of I need to go gamble, of I want to go gamble, of I like gambling, when you start to have those thoughts, that is the time to interrupt. Put your focus, 100% of your focus on something else. Anything else, I don't care. Now be aware to do that on something healthy, because if it is unhealthy, another thing that is just as bad as gambling to you, that would become the known if you did that enough. So understand that yes, you'd break the gambling addiction, but then you'd go right into another problem if you're focusing on pattern interrupting and going into another problem. Don't do that. Okay. Don't do that. What you want to do, have these positive gambling thoughts, these craving thoughts. I'm about to take the action to go gamble to relieve myself from all this pain because I like the thoughts of gambling better. When you're there, that is when you put your attention on something else. Go play a video game. Go be with your family. Go walk your dog. Go to the gym. Right? do something for several hours and don't stop until you literally don't think of gambling anymore. That would be a very successful pattern interrupt. And you'll have to do it again and again and again and again and again until it becomes known that every time I think gambling is a good idea, I'm going to stop myself. That will eventually become the new known. It won't be right away, but it will become the new known. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm thinking of gambling, but I really don't want to gamble anymore. That becomes the new known. And then you stop. And you stop having the urges because you're no longer focused and you're no longer hypnotizing yourself to be a gambler. Anyway, hopefully this helped. This is probably a different video. I normally don't like to go into the whole hypnosis stuff just because, it's woo-woo and people don't, understand it. But hopefully this was helpful. I wanted to explain it a little bit to help you guys understand what hypnosis is. It's just attention. Your subconscious mind only cares about the known and the unknown, doesn't care how you feel. What is known, what is unknown, what's familiar. That's it. That's all it cares about. And so the more you program yourself with attention on something, that becomes the known. And so how do you get out of that? Anytime you start to have your attention on the thing you don't want, you have to break that attention and put your attention on something else. Focus your attention somewhere else. And you do that enough, then the new known becomes every time I gamble, I go work out instead. Every time I think of wanting to gamble, I hang out with my family. Every time I feel like I want to gamble, I go walk my dog. Whatever, that's the pattern interrupt. That becomes your new coping strategy, right? Because the gambling is your coping strategy. We've talked about this a lot in my channel. Gambling is the coping strategy. That's all it is. It's a coping strategy for things that happened in your life. Whether it was childhood trauma or 2 weeks ago before you started your first gambling uh, time in a casino or something. Okay, it could be any time in between. I'm not saying everything's childhood trauma. I don't believe that. I don't believe that's true. I have too many countless sessions telling you that that's not true. Okay, so what you're doing is you're escaping all this stuff. You're going to gambling. That becomes the new known. That gambling is the relief. Now you know that. And as you reinforce that through attention and through doing and through acting and through thinking and feeling that way, and you keep growing the known for however long you do, how do you break it? Put your attention on something else. In the moment that your attention is on the thing that you think that you want, you have to do it at the right time. It's a pattern interrupt. The pattern is I think these thoughts and I feel good and I want to go. You break that pattern right at its core. And instead of going and gambling, when you think of gambling and feel like you want to go gamble, the action you take is the pattern interrupt. You do something completely else, something entirely different until all of those thoughts and feelings go away. It might take a couple hours, depending on the person. Okay. Depending on how stubborn you are, which is that is the truth. Your stubbornness, a person's stubbornness, and what we call it is cognitive rigidity or critical faculty. Those things are what prevent change. Okay, so your stubbornness on your issues is what prevents you from change. You have to be open. You have to be attentive, right? It's an open attention. You have to be open to changing it. Otherwise, you're not going to. Okay. So whenever you have craving thoughts, my advice to you, be mindful that those are the things that are going to get you to gamble again. Those thoughts are your subconscious mind telling you, hey, this is the known. Here's some thoughts. Go gamble. That's what's happening. And as you put your attention on something else, you're creating a new known that says, okay, whenever I want to go gamble, for the last 100 times that I've done this, every single time I thought of going to gamble, I read a book, I played a game, I was with my family, I walked my dog, I did anything else but that. What happens is the subconscious mind accepts this idea. It says, oh, so we don't want to go gamble anymore. You've told me this 100 times now. Now I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to get it. It's becoming more and more known that every time I think of gambling, I do something else. And that after repetition after repetition after repetition is becoming the new known. I don't really want to do that anymore. So that's now when I think of gambling, my immediate thought is not to go gamble, but to go walk my dog or go work out or go be with my family. So anyway, hope this helps. This is just another sort of rifting video. Hopefully the information is helpful in terms of what to do, how to get out of your own gambling addiction. And again, if you need help, if you want help, if you want it to go much faster than doing it on your own, feel free to contact message, comment, set up a pre-booking for consultation, and we can knock this stuff out much, much faster together. So that's it for now, guys. I hope that was helpful and take care.